Hi, I'm Gail Street, and welcome to Paths to the Present. On today's show, we will celebrate a milestone with St. Mary's Catholic Church in Rockville. Founded in 1813, St. Mary's is marking their bicentennial. Today, the parish features two architecturally significant churches, supports an award-winning Catholic school, and provides a spiritual home to more than 2,700 families. It's come a long way in 200 years, something that a recently released book reveals.
Robin.
Parishioner, historian, and author Roger Langley spent 3 years researching and writing the book History of St. Mary's Parish, 1813 to 2013. From the outset, he had a particular goal in mind.
I want to write the good and the bad, and I want to go beyond just simply St. Mary's, but St. Mary's role in Rockville, in Montgomery County, and in the nation.
In 1813, Father James Redmond, a Jesuit from Ireland, was assigned the task of establishing a Catholic parish in Rockville. Back then, the population of this town was only about 200 people.
There really wasn't much in Montgomery County. Very few amenities. There was no electricity. There were only dirt roads. The transportation was mule and horses. And the priests had to go around to the different homes and to say Mass each week. And it was scattered all over Montgomery County. And when the first pastor kept a log for a month, and it was several thousand miles that he traveled just going around from one place to another. So it was a lot different than what we're used to now.
The first church was completed in 1817. Lovingly cared for and maintained, it is still used daily for Mass. But this church's history is so much more than a building. Over the years, St. Mary's parishioners have made a difference to the community at large.
There's a period of time between 1903 and 2003, that's a 100-year period, that half of that time, the mayor of Rockville was a member of St. Mary's community. And that was an extremely important time because now Rockville is the second largest city in the state of Maryland. Well, we had a role in that.
In 1935, a tragedy literally hit their doorstep. Back then, Baltimore Road crossed the B&O Railroad track here at grade level. This intersection was the site of a horrible accident when on a rainy, foggy night, a train collided with a school bus.
The bus driver was having trouble with his window washers, and he was fooling with that, and he had slowed down and almost come to a stop, but then inexplicably he put on the gas and ran out onto the track just at the moment as the train was coming to the intersection. And the engineer saw it, and he yelled at the fireman, "Hang on, we're going to hit the bus." And he got the bus about halfway across, and the train sheared off the back half of the bus. And as the bus kept moving, and the bodies were flying out of the bus, and they're filled where we have the parking lot now, their bodies were strewn there all the way up to the embankment next to the cemetery. Now, the Washington Post said that it seemed like two priests appeared out of nowhere, and the people there were saying they were like angels because they were ministering to the kids who were injured and to the dead. Well, they weren't from nowhere. They were from the rectory. The accident happened right in the backyard of the rectory, and they came out.
As times changed, so did St. Mary's, but sometimes change didn't happen fast enough. When the church was first established, slaves could worship here, but only if they sat in the gallery above. That restriction continued after the Civil War until 1952, when parishioners Robert and Carolyn Lewis took a stand.
She was pregnant. She was almost due. And in order to get upstairs, a very narrow kind of staircase up there, and there's a place to bump your head, and she bumped her head. And she said to her husband, "You know, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to sit downstairs." So the next week they sat downstairs, and the ushers came running over, and they're making signs of go upstairs, and they just kept looking there piously straight ahead and not paying any attention to them. Then when the Mass started, then they let them, they didn't bother them anymore. So the next week they came, and they did the same thing, and they're going, we'll go upstairs, and they just pretended they didn't hear him, didn't notice him. Then they went to see the pastor, and they told him that, they were not going to sit up there anymore. But the pastor didn't see him. He had one of his assistants see him. So he got the message. So other blacks started sitting downstairs, and gradually, one Sunday, the sign blacks upstairs was gone, and the church was quietly integrated.
When St. Mary's was founded, the country was fighting in the War of 1812. That war, like all the others that followed, touched the people who worshipped here.
We kind of forget this, but Washington was burned during the War of 1812. You could see the flames from here, from Rockville, of Washington burning. And so the people didn't know, are they coming here next or not? So we were in that. Of course, the Civil War, the troops from both sides kept passing through, having skirmishes here, and no matter which side came, they stole the horses, took the food, burned the fences, and so we were all in that war. We have one man who was killed in the World War I, and we had another one killed. I think we have 2 or 3 killed in the Second World War.
St. Mary's Catholic Church is probably best known for the famous novelist buried in its cemetery. Author F. Scott Fitzgerald's grave is regularly decorated by admirers.
There's a whole procession of people that come, particularly on the anniversaries of his death and his birth. They leave little trinkets. They leave copies of books, mostly The Great Gatsby. They leave coins. They leave writing paper. They leave pencils and pens. Kevin Daly, the plant manager here, well, he has a rule that he leaves stuff on the grave for one day, and then the next day he throws it away.
In September 1951, St. Mary's Catholic School opened its doors. Through the years, countless children have been educated here, and in 2011, it was named a Maryland Blue Ribbon School.
We're very proud of our graduates. We have people in the parish of the first graduating class still here. The school is an important adjunct of the parish, and that we're very proud of it, and it's been very successful.
In the middle of the 20th century, Montgomery County was an expanding suburb of our nation's capital. And as Rockville grew, so did St. Mary's. A larger church was needed. A new mid-century modern building was constructed and dedicated in 1967.
It has the advantage of having some of the traditional elements of Catholic churches and some of the newer things. Now, the newer churches did away with the altar rails, they did away with stained glass windows, they did away with kneelers, and they did away with little decorations, basically, and so a lot of people call them the beige churches. But this one has a mix of both.
Outside of the new church is a recently installed memorial honoring specialist T.J. Barbieri, a young man who gave his life helping fellow soldiers take cover when their platoon was ambushed in Iraq in 2006. For Roger Langley, this is a stop everyone should make.
When you come to St. Mary's, you're by the front door, take a moment, go to your left. There's a big green bush there, just past that, and on the ground there's a plaque dedicated to TJ with 2 small American flags. Just take a moment, say a prayer, and say thank you, because he deserves it.
200 years of history is more than can be presented in a short video. Read the full story, which is available in local libraries.